Today I want to focus on one aspect of the East Palestine train crash. The official story is that this whole train crash is the result of an overheated bearing. But what are we actually seeing in this surveillance footage? We have one video and one photo from Salem, Ohio, taken around the same time at around 8:12 to 8:13 p.m. And this is the only color photo or video I've seen of the train in the lead up to the crash. We can see the color of the fire looking thing underneath the train car. We see some sort of a flare underneath this boxcar, which appears to burn yellowish orange/white. In the video that we see a minute earlier, if the timestamps are correct, we see a much more pronounced fire, raging at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 locations. Not just under the car, but also seemingly engulfing the top part of the car as well. And for a brief instant, we can actually see some flashes ahead of the primary burn. So this was around 8:12 to 8:13 p.m. And then there's a big gap and we don't have any visuals for 33 minutes. The next and last footage we have before the crash is from New Waterford, Ohio. In this footage we see a bright fire-looking thing underneath. Interestingly, it almost seems more like a light than a fire, though we do appear to see some sparks emanating from this lit region. This is a sustained fire for the length of the entire shot, burning bright at a single point. It's so bright that it looks like a flashlight at the beginning of the shot, shining onto the land as it drives by. And it seems to act almost like a spotlight as it drives by, lighting up the land. And then at the precise moment the spotlight hits the camera, you see the top of the porch light up as well. Now I don't know what to make of this, but as soon as the spotlight hits this doorstep where the camera is, you can see the top roof lights up. I don't know if that's supposed to be, or actually is, being lit up specifically by this fire that's driving by. Now I don't know what to make of this, so let me know in the comments what you think. But it seems like this light on this train corresponds with the lighting up of this doorstep. Very, very strange. Let's watch this frame by frame. You can see it locally lighting up the region that it's driving by. Lighting up the land, lighting up the land, lighting up the land, and then at the very end, right when it turns to the camera, the light hits the camera, you see the roof over the porch light up. But there's something that doesn't look like a fire to me about this light. Is this even how a fire would light up the scenery? What about an overheated axis? Is this how an overheated axis would light up the scenery? So this train's going 47 miles per hour, they say. And the footage they present shows a consistent burn. A bright, strong burn. From 8:12 to the last time we see this train, at 8:46. That's 34 minutes later. That's 34 minutes of a consistent, strong burn. What exactly are they saying is burning here? Some lubricant on the axis? This makes zero sense. The visuals are out of whack with the story. And I'd also be curious if we could have one example of this ever happening before. An overheating axis burning bright like this for 34 plus minutes. Also, we don't know how long this fire was burning before the first time it was picked up on camera, at 8:12 in Salem, Ohio. I want to be clear, I don't know what to make of the footage. I'm not conceding that all of this is real footage. It could very well be digitally manipulated. And I certainly don't concede that this is an overheated bearing, making this light. I think this is stage magic, where they have to direct our attention and say, look, there's a mechanical issue. It's the bearing, it's breaking apart, it's like a Hollywood movie. It's failing, look, it's on fire. But I don't buy it, I think this is a decoy. Some sort of a flare set off to explain away what really happened with a false story. And one that they can turn around and say, well, we need to regulate these companies more. And this was not rigged, this was not sabotage, this was not planned. We need more regulation. And one thing I'm pretty confident about is I think that this was rigged. I think this was pre-planned. And honestly, I think this was an inside job. So after the train drives by this camera, we return to not having any visibility for 8 more minutes until it crashes at 8:54. And look at this footage. This huge wall of flames. Does this seem consistent at all with an overheated axle? Or is that just the official explanation? So now let's listen to the official press briefing where they make it clear they have no idea what happened, and yet they're going to be brazenly cocksure that it was because of an overheated bearing.
We know for a fact that this derailment occurred at car number 23. Car number 23 was a hopper car, which carried plastic pellets. It was the combination of the hot axle and the plastic pellets which started the initial fire. And during this deceleration, the wheel bearing failed. Car number 23 derailed, and the train initiated an emergency brake application and came to a stop. So the emergency brake application was triggered by the derail. There are a number of causes for overheated roller bearings. These could include fatigue cracking, water damage, mechanical damage, a loose bearing, or a wheel defect, and we will look at all that.
Is there any suggestion yet what actually caused the overheating? You said there's a list of possibilities, but is there any leading candidate what was causing this overheating with the bearings and potentially then the axle?
The question is what was causing the overheating of the bearing and therefore the axle? It's a great question, and it's something we have to look at as part of this investigation.
Ryan McGill, Wall Street Journal. I want to talk about the plastic pellets that caught fire with the hot axle. Did that happen before the derailment or after the number?
No, the question is when did the plastic pellets, when was the fire initiated with the plastic pellets? That was after the derailment.
The video that we have, it looks like the bearing's basically on fire or really hot at that point, and I think that is very close to that second detector. Is the condition of it being so hot consistent with the reading that was coming from the detector at that point?
Yeah, so we're still looking at that video, and we're looking at others, and that's why we're trying to find other videos to determine, what was going on there. We believe that it was hot, and at that point, grease is burning. That's what we believe on the axle. And
something that I think is very interesting here is they admit to using shaped cutter charges. The official story. So they say small shaped charges were used to breach the tank cars, and the vinyl chloride was allowed to flow into a trench, where it was ignited by flames. So they say they did this right before the quote-unquote controlled burn. But obviously blowing the whole thing up makes zero sense. It's entirely scandalous. But why would they do that? What if it was to conceal the other shaped charges that were used? Possibly designed to create this fire in the first place. To cause the derailment. To cause the crash. Now, if and when people were to analyze the wreckage, if they see the results of a cutter charge, or as it says here on the Wikipedia page, small shaped charges that were used to breach the tank cars, to cause the vinyl chloride to flow out. Well, now there's plausible deniability, because now they can point at the so-called controlled burn and say, oh yeah, we know there were cutter charges, but it happened after the fire. Absolutely ridiculous. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm still investigating. There's a lot more to unpack. This is just one small sliver of the story, but it's important because it's the official explanation. Or is it the official deception? Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day.